You think you're seeing the world as it is. But what if I told you that almost everything you believe to be reality isn't even there? Neuroscientists have discovered that your brain filters out up to 99% of all information around you every second. In other words, you don't see the world. You see what your mind allows you to see. It is like wearing invisible glasses that only let in a tiny fraction of what is real, while the rest is quietly erased before you're even aware of it. Think about that. Right now, your brain might be ignoring sounds, details, sensations, even opportunities, because it decided they're not important. But who decided what's important? And how many choices, chances, and paths are you missing simply because your brain deleted them before you could notice? In this video, we are going to explore the science behind this invisible filter, why your brain builds its own version of reality, how it chooses what stays and what disappears, and what you can do to change those filters consciously. Because once you understand how your mind edits the world, you can start to see more of it and maybe even reshape the reality you live in. Have you ever wondered why two people can live through the exact same situation and walk away with completely different stories about what happened? One sees opportunity, the other sees risk. One remembers a smile, the other a cold look. One feels hope, the other despair. How can the same reality look so different depending on who's observing it? The answer is simple and, at the same time, deeply unsettling. We are not perceiving reality as it is. We are perceiving a version of it that our brain builds for us. Every single day, without realizing it, we live inside a kind of mental movie edited by our own nervous system. It decides what makes the final cut and what ends up on the cutting room floor. Most of the film, up to 99% of what is happening around us, never even reaches our conscious awareness. Think about a simple walk down a busy street. You pass by dozens of people, hundreds of objects, thousands of details. And yet, you might remember almost nothing about it. Your brain didn't fail you. It chose not to show you most of it. Like a strict editor, it filtered out what it considered irrelevant and stitched together a simplified version of the world for you to experience. That's why the smell of coffee catches your attention if you're tired, or a fragment of conversation makes you pause if it resonates with something you've been thinking about. Everything else fades into the background as if it never existed. Philosophers have wrestled with this idea for centuries. Over 2,000 years ago, Plato's allegory of the cave described people chained inside a cave, mistaking the shadows on the wall for reality itself. They believed those shadows were the whole world because that's all they could see. In a remarkably similar way, Immanuel Kant argued that we never experience the thing in itself, noumenon, only the phenomena, the filtered appearances our mind constructs from raw sensory data. In other words, reality exists, but we only ever meet it halfway, through the lens of perception. Modern neuroscience is now proving what these thinkers intuited. The human brain is a prediction machine. It is constantly making guesses about the world and then checking incoming sensory data against those guesses. Anything that doesn't fit, anything unexpected, irrelevant, less, or overwhelming is likely to be discarded before you even notice it. This is why two people can attend the same conversation and recall completely different details. Their brains filtered for different things, based on past experiences, beliefs, and expectations. It is like trying to drink water from a fire hose. You'd be overwhelmed by the flow. So the brain installs filters to keep you safe and efficient. But here's the catch. Those filters are shaped not just by biology, but by everything you've lived and believed. Your upbringing, your culture, your fears, your hopes, they all act as invisible settings on the lens through which you see the world. And once those settings are in place, you stop questioning them. You simply assume that what you see is reality. There is an old saying, we don't see things as they are, we see them as we are. It captures this truth perfectly. The person who believes the world is dangerous will literally notice more threats. The one who believes people are kind will see more kindness. Not because reality changed, but because their brain filtered the world through those internal beliefs. This is why spiritual traditions like Buddhism talk about Maya, the idea that what we perceive is an illusion, not because the world doesn't exist, but because our minds distort and filter it. And it is why modern cognitive science talks about predictive processing, the brain, as habit of guessing what is out there and constructing a perception that is often more about its expectations than about raw data. So the next time you argue with someone and can, do you understand how they don't see what is right in front of them? Remember, they can't. Their brain literally deleted it. And so did yours in a different way. Both of you are navigating filtered realities, stitched together from billions of pieces of information that were never allowed into awareness. Here's the profound truth. Reality is far larger, richer, and more complex than what any of us can perceive. We're all looking at shadows on the wall, shadows shaped by neurons, past experiences, and unconscious predictions. And yet, just like those prisoners in Plato's cave, we believe those shadows are the whole truth. If our perception of reality is so limited, how exactly does the brain decide what stays and what gets deleted? That asks the deeper question, and answering it means looking under the hood of how your mind works every second of the day. Let's start with something ordinary. Imagine you're sitting in a cafe, scrolling on your phone. Around you, dozens of conversations are happening at once, cups are clinking, a door opens and closes. Someone walks past wearing strong perfume. Most of this never reaches your awareness. But the moment someone says your name from across the room, your attention snaps instantly in that direction. What just happened? The sound waves from all those conversations were always hitting your ears. The difference is that your brain was deleting them until something matched its internal prediction of what matters. This is how the brain works all the time. It's not a passive camera recording the world. It's more like a detective piecing together a story with limited clues. According to the predictive processing model proposed by neuroscientists Andy Clark and Carl Friston, your brain is constantly building hypotheses about what's happening around you. It then uses sensory input to confirm or update those guesses. Information that matches what the brain already expects often gets ignored because, from its perspective, it's already known. Information that's irrelevant or too overwhelming, also discarded. The result is a neat, simplified story, one that costs less energy to process. Energy is a big part of this equation. Your brain is only about 2% of your body weight but uses roughly 20% of your total energy. That means efficiency is everything. Processing every bit of raw data from the world would overwhelm your nervous system like trying to drink water from a fire hose. So the brain sets up shortcuts, filters, heuristics, and automatic predictions that save time and energy. But those shortcuts come with a price. They shape, limit, and sometimes distort the reality you think you're experiencing. A classic demonstration of this is the inattentional blindness experiment by psychologists Daniel Simons and Christopher Chabris. Participants watched a video of people passing a basketball and were asked to count the passes. In the middle of the video, a person in a gorilla suit walked across the screen, and about half the viewers didn't see it at all. Their eyes registered the image, but their brains deleted it because it didn't match the basketball game story they were focused on. This isn't stupidity, it's how human perception works. Even at the level of raw sensory input, the brain is making massive cuts. In the user illusion, science writer Tornor Trender showed that while the body takes in roughly 11 million bits of information per second, our conscious mind can process only about 40 bits. That means more than 99.999% of sensory data is filtered out before we're even aware of it. Your mind isn't lying to you. It's curating reality to keep you functioning. This has profound implications. It means that much of what we call reality is a best guess, a model constructed inside our skull, and that model isn't neutral. It's influenced by past experiences, beliefs, fears, goals, and cultural conditioning. If you grew up believing that the world is dangerous, your brain will predict danger and then delete anything that contradicts that story. If you believe you're not capable, it will filter the world through that lens too. In neuroscience, this is called top-down processing, perception shaped from the inside out. It's also why change feels so hard. When you try to see yourself or the world differently, you're not just thinking positive. You're trying to rewire the brain's prediction system, a system designed to cling to the familiar. That is why many people stay stuck in the same patterns for years. Their brains literally aren't noticing evidence that contradicts their internal model. But here's the encouraging part, those filters are not fixed. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to change its structure and function, means we can train our perception just like a muscle. Through intentional focus, repeated exposure, and conscious awareness, we can teach our brains to notice what they once ignored. Over time, the model expands. The world becomes richer, more nuanced, more alive. And this isn't just abstract theory. Studies show that mindfulness practices, even just a few minutes a day, can change how the brain processes information. Regions like the anterior cingulate cortex and the prefrontal cortex, involved in attention and filtering, become more active and flexible. That means you literally become better at choosing what your brain lets in. So the real question becomes, if your brain is going to build a version of reality anyway, why not teach it to build a better one? Why not train it to notice possibility instead of limitation, connection instead of isolation, opportunity instead of threat? Because here's the truth, once you learn how to work with these filters, instead of being controlled by them, you unlock a different level of freedom. You stop being just a passenger inside a reality your brain constructed, and you start becoming the architect of how you see, feel, and respond to the world. And that's exactly what we're going to do next. In the final part of this video, I'll guide you through a simple yet powerful practice that helps retrain your brain to widen its filters and perceive more of reality. It's not complicated, but the effects can be profound: more clarity, more awareness, and a mind that's not just reacting to the world, but actively shaping it. Let's pause for a moment and put everything we've explored into perspective. We started by breaking a powerful illusion, the idea that what you see is reality itself. Neuroscience shows us that your brain deletes up to 99% of the information around you, building a simplified version of the world that it thinks is enough for you to function. We saw that philosophers like Plato and Kant already pointed to this truth centuries ago, that what we perceive are not things as they are, but shadows, appearances, filtered versions of something far greater. We also learned that your brain is not a passive observer, it's a prediction machine. It constantly guesses what's happening and deletes anything that doesn't fit its expectations. We saw how experiments like inattentional blindness reveal that even obvious things can disappear from awareness if they don't match the story your mind is telling. And we discovered that your beliefs, experiences, and fears quietly program these filters, shaping not just what you see, but the kind of life you think is possible. And yet, the most important lesson is this: those filters are not permanent. Because of neuroplasticity, your brain can change. You can train it to notice more, to include more, to rewrite the story it tells you about the world. Now imagine for a second what that could mean for your life. Imagine waking up tomorrow and noticing possibilities that were invisible to you yesterday. Imagine recognizing patterns in conversations, details in opportunities, or signals in your own body that you used to overlook. Imagine how many chances for growth, love, creativity, and purpose might already be surrounding you, hidden in the 99% your brain was deleting all along. That's not fantasy. That's what starts to happen when you learn to work with your perception instead of being trapped by it. And the first step is surprisingly simple. Here's a practice you can start tonight, one that uses the brain's own filtering system to your advantage. The seed of awareness practice before you go to sleep. Take 2 minutes to ask yourself a single question. What am I not seeing? Repeat it slowly without trying to answer. Let it echo in your mind as you drift off. Then, when you wake up tomorrow, set a 5-minute window in the morning to observe, not to analyze, not to judge, just to notice. Pay attention to one detail in your surroundings that you would normally ignore. It could be the way light moves across the room, a sound you've never noticed, a small act of kindness, or even a subtle thought pattern that appears. That's it. Just notice. It might sound too simple to matter. But here's why it works. Every time you intentionally bring awareness to something you would normally miss, you're sending a powerful signal to your brain's predictive system. Update your model. With repetition, this rewires your filters, the same way lifting small weights over time builds strength. The brain starts predicting less rigidly and noticing more. And once it starts noticing more, your perception expands. And when perception expands, so does possibility. Think of it like planting a seed. At first, it's tiny, barely noticeable. But with consistency, that seed grows roots, then shoots, then branches. It reshapes the soil around it. And one day, it becomes a tree that changes the landscape entirely. Your awareness works the same way. Each small act of noticing plants a seed that slowly reshapes the way your mind constructs reality. And that's where the transformation truly begins, because the more you see, the more you can choose. And the more you can choose, the less life happens to you and the more it begins to happen through you. So here's my invitation. Try this practice tonight. Ask the question. Plant the seed. Notice what you've never noticed before. And then pay attention, not just to the world around you, but to how you feel inside it. If this video shifted the way you think about reality, share your experience in the comments below. And make sure to subscribe, because every week we explore science-based tools to reprogram your mind, awaken deeper awareness, and help you see far more than the 1% you thought was real.